In episode number 210 to Making a Case, we're talking about when you give too much and they give too little. Let's get into it. Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Making a Case. We on 210. I'm your host, Dr. Jacob Isom. We got two channel norms right here. One, we attack points and not people. And then two, we don't do all that cussing and fussing and saying all that foolishness because we like to keep it professional over here, all right? Today we're talking about when you give too much, but they give too little. I know it's frustrating, and we've all been there, right? And guess what? We all try to give it a chance until we just get fed up and say, you know what? I could do bad all by myself. Did you finish it? Okay. Now, one thing that we definitely understand and know about relationships, one of the key building blocks is reciprocity. All right. I've talked about it on this channel before. If there is not a certain or a healthy level of reciprocity, it's going to be very difficult for a relationship to last long term. Now, we are talking about long term, right? We kind of flip back and forth from short term to long term, but at the end of the day, what are most people going after? They're going after the long term. So if you want to be in a successful long term relationship, reciprocity is the key. But unfortunately, some people, want to give the bare minimum. Some people want to do just enough to keep their partner happy. And of course, eventually that wears thin, and then people get frustrated, arguments happen, and you already know it's a dead end after that. But like I said, we've all been through it before. There are kind of signs and reasons behind why some people may do it. I'm kind of gonna leave that to once we get into these video clips so we can have that conversation. But of course, you already know. I just had to, introduce the topic before we really delve deep into it. Okay. So with that being said, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into our first clip. All right, let's do it.
Have limits. We're not superhuman. There's only so much of ourselves we can give freely, where we won't keep score, where we won't have resentment, and we won't throw it in their face at a later time. We have a limit as to how far we can go. And after that, our reserves get depleted. We just don't have the reserves to do everything for everyone all the time. And that's okay. That's healthy. The idea, if anyone expects you, because you're family or you're my spouse or my partner, that you should always have my back and be able to give this to me, that is actually an abusive request. That doesn't take into account that we're all human and that certain days we might be able to do everything and anything you ask, but other days we have our own battles inside. But we all have limits. We're not.
And as I'm watching this clip, I really had my own epiphany, right? Because story time, right? In my circle, right, whether that's family or friends, I am someone that's dependent on, right? Or dependable, a person that people look to have things together, right? It's not that other people don't, it's just that, and this has nothing to do with, the success that I have or anything like that. It just has to do with the fact that people look at me and they see a person that, okay, I can trust this person. If I need help, this person can help me. In times of crisis, I really feel like that I can trust and depend on this person. And I'm that person, right? But hearing him say that, and I'm thinking, like, why it's so true? Because, like, sometimes, even though I know this my role is to be a helper, right? And what I do for a living speaks to that. But it doesn't mean that I don't still get frustrated from time to time, right? That I don't be like, man, like, why can't people just leave me alone, right? You know what I'm saying? That still happens, right? It happens to the best of us. I don't care how strong you are, right? So if you're a person that's in a relationship and you're feeling like that, you feeling like your partner, your friend, or anybody like that is constantly tugging at you, but they're not adding nothing to you, it gets frustrating, right? And then it's going to naturally make you question the relationship, particularly if it's a voluntary relationship like a romantic relationship and a friendship, right? Family is one thing. You can distance yourself from family, but they're going to always be there. You always have this sense of obligation, depending on what it is, right? So that's the thing. Like, you don't want to eventually become the villain because someone keeps taking from you, right? That's what you want to prevent. So that's why this conversation is very necessary. Let's go to the next clip.
Know about dating until I was in my 30s. You don't get to decide what you get out of a relationship. You can only get what someone else is willing to give. So if you're dating someone and you're not getting what you want out of the relationship, whether that's effort or feeling like a priority or just getting their time and attention, you cannot manipulate someone into getting something that they're not willing to give. All you can do is clearly communicate your boundaries, expectations, and standards. And if that person is willing to meet them, great. But if not, you need to move on. Staying in a relationship where you are consistently unhappy is a form of self-harm. Here's something I didn't know about dating until I was
I don't disagree. I only one pushback on what she said is the fact that she said you can't manipulate somebody. Oh, yes, you can. People do it all the time, right? Manipulation is a tactic that's used in relationships all the time, especially during dating, right? But everything else she said is on the money, right? If you know that this person is showing up this way, and the thing about it is, like, it's you paying attention to body language. You're paying attention to, and I'll give you this tidbit. This is the reason why questioning is so important, particularly in the beginning. Their work schedule, their workout schedule, if they work out, their social life, how often they go out and things, all that is information you need to use to see, well, just how available that person is going to be to you and how likely they are to adapt their life once you two decide to come together and make things official or get more serious with each other, right? Because she is right about one thing, that someone is not going to change for you if it's just in their identity, right? If it's just who they are, it's just who they are. Now you got to decide if that's something that you want to put up with, right? Because really, two people should come together and fit like a puzzle piece. All right. Now, is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not, right? But there should be early compromise in the beginning, okay? Because people have to be aware enough to understand that if I'm allowing somebody in my life, just like they're allowing somebody in their life, there's going to be sacrifices, compromises, negotiations, communication. All that stuff is going to be there, right? And two people get to be understanding and willing enough to understand that this person is someone I want to see in my life and I can see the benefit, so it's worthwhile. All right. So in that sense, it's not giving up too much or doing too much, only if that person is not willing to do the same thing for you, right? And then once you see it's not being reciprocated, that's when you got to let it go. All right, let's go to our next clip.
Feeling when you care deeply about someone and then you start to wonder if maybe you care too much, like you're showing up, you're trying, maybe you're even pushing a little, but instead of leaning in, the other person pulls away, and suddenly you're left with this awful thought. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe they're better off without me. That feeling when you reach out and no one reaches back is one of the most painful experiences in relationships. And today, I want to talk about what's actually happening underneath that process and what to do with it.
Yes, it can be painful for sure. If you don't know how to deal with it and kind of respond to it, right? Because context matters, right? It depends on if you're in a relationship, how deep are you in a relationship? Are you in the dating phase? Like, where are you with this person? Right? Because if it's in the beginning, it's just kind of you gotta chalk up your losses and kind of is what it is, right? But if you've been in a relationship 2, 3, 4 years, yes, it can be painful because like I've invested a lot and I keep on investing and I'm not getting the return that I feel like I should get or deserve, right? So that can be a painful thing. So um the only thing you can do right is communicate, and to be honest with you, you have to communicate these things early, right? Your boundaries and your standards and um what's your likes, your dislikes, your pet peeves, all this stuff. You have to bring this stuff up early so that it don't seep in later and then it's like, well, I didn't know this, right? Because the reason why you want to communicate things like that early, because it's like, all right, clearly I set a boundary and I told you the things that bothers me or I don't like. And now that you're doing it, now I have a legitimate reason to walk away if I have to. Okay. Now we're trying to make things work. Like I said, particularly depending on how long you've been. But at the end of the day, I have to protect myself because nobody's going to protect me like me. Right. I realized that a long time ago, man. Nobody is coming to save me but me. Can't nobody save me. Don't nobody want to save me. Don't nobody love me like me. Don't nobody love you like you. Right. So you always got to look out for your best interests. Okay. People going to gas you up like, oh, I love you. Cool. Show me. All right. Hey, I got one more clip for you. Let's get into it.
And someone comes over and says, Matthew, at my table is a huge fan of yours. She's got your programs. Will you please come over and say hi? So I come over to their table, I say hi, and this person says, thank you so much. And I got your attraction to commitment program, and it absolutely works. What you do works. She said, but if I'm honest, I'm actually a little mad at you. And I said, why are you mad? She said, because I feel like I spent so much time trying to bring my best, trying to be my most attractive self to this person, that I feel like I kind of lost myself and just ended up giving too much to the relationship. When I heard that, at first I was confused because I spend so much of this program that she was referring to saying things like this. Remaining a challenge is about maintaining the other important parts of your life. And I want you to think about what those things are, those things that make you, you. They're very, very important because when someone meets you, that's the shit that they get attracted to in the first place, is the rounded, multi-dimensional person that you are. But I understand. There is a kind of selective hearing that happens when we really like someone, when we're really into someone. Our mind goes to, how do I keep them? How do I impress them? How do I be my most attractive self to this person? And of course, I do tell people that in my programs. Here's how to bring your best to the table. And I will always stand by that, by the way. I can never relate to people in my comment section online when someone says, well, why do you need to do all of this for a person? Why do you need to go out of your way to be your most attractive self? Why can't you just be who you are? And I always think, why are the two mutually exclusive? Why can't you be who you are, but also focus on bringing your best to a relationship? I want to do that. I want to be irreplaceable in my life. And in every one of my relationships, I want to bring so much value to that relationship that it's obvious to someone why they would want to continue that relationship with me.
And before he goes on, first of all, I agree with him, right? And I rock with a lot of what he says. But he might address this or probably has addressed this at his events, his trainings that he's doing. That is scary for most people, right? because most people are kind of a wait and see, particularly women, right? They've been let down and hurt so much by the men that they have encountered, whether that's fathers, brothers, cousins, relationships, right? A lot of women are so terrified of giving so much because they feel like they're going to be let down because they're not going to receive much back, which is the reason why I did a video of this nature, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of women look at it as so risky, right? That's the reason why the proverbial wall we talk about all the time that women have up, right? And they approach it, well, when he shows me that I can let my wall down is when I'm gonna let my wall down, right? Not coming into it with a blank slate, right? Being like, you know what, this is a new person. Hey, he get the benefit of doubt. Like, I trust him. No, I don't trust you until you show me I can trust you, right? That's a tough position to be in, right? So a lot of women are terrified of giving so much of themselves and showing the best parts of them because it's like, well, this person just gonna let me down. I just had this conversation the other day with a woman, right? Let's keep. We're not gonna watch all of it, but we're gonna watch a little bit more.
Business, in my love life, in my friendships, my family. I'm all about bringing value. But the selective hearing that happens sometimes when someone listens to one of my programs is that they hear all the parts that they can do to be impressive, but they forget about the parts or they ignore the parts where I say, by the way, pay very close attention to whether this person is bringing you the same amount of value. Mutual investment. And I've been saying this for years now. You don't invest in someone based on how much you like them. You invest in them based on how much they invest in you. Pay very close attention to whether they are investing the same amount of time and energy in you. Because although I talk about being irreplaceable, although I talk about everything you should put in, that energy, that time, that value you should put in should be expensive. It should come at a high cost. And the cost is, I'm willing to give you the world as long as you meet me there. That's the cost. And if you ignore the fact that someone isn't meeting you there, now you're in trouble. And why does someone ignore the fact that this person isn't meeting them there? Because they're blinded by how much they like or love the person. They're blinded.
We're gonna stop right there. But that's a great point. I think I talked about this on Instagram the other day. About one of my dating tips. If you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure you give me a follow because I've been going through top 10 dating tips. I'm also going to put it on my website, so stay tuned. But you don't give somebody what they don't deserve, right? If they're not coming at you with the same energy, then you have to let it go, right? Because it's really for your sanity. That's what it's for, right? And it's just fair, right? Most things in life is not going to be equal. It's not going to be balanced. People tell me all the time, man, like, you work so much. When do you ever find time to da-da-da-da? I'm thinking like, that's not how I think. Everything in life is not going to have balance. Yes, my work to fun ratio or work to social life ratio is very skewed, probably like 85-15. Okay. I'm okay with that. I got a goal, I got a mission. Okay. But in terms of being in a relationship with somebody, getting to know somebody, they should be meeting you halfway. It's only right. Okay. If you tell me you interested in me and I'm interested in you, you got to show me just like I got to show you. Period. It's that simple. It's not a difficult process if you really think about it. But unfortunately, a lot of modern women, the way they thinking, you hear the rhetoric on social media all the time, right? They got to impress me. They got to take me to this place. Like, by just the mere fact of women thinking like this, they're not going to invest in a man because all they thinking is a man is supposed to invest so much in me. He's supposed to spend so much on me. That is where things are going haywire. And we got to talk about this. Okay. So, but I will say this, a lot of men are all waking up saying, wait a minute, I'm investing so much in doing all this. well, what am I getting in return? Okay, because if there is an imbalance of energy being put in, you can change that. All right. And we're going to end the video on that because it got a little bit too long. But this was a great conversation. I hope you think so, right? Hey, please let me know, man. What do you think? Have you been the person that gave too much, or have you been the person that gave too little in a relationship? Hey, let me know what you think about the topic, the discussion. Y'all know I rock with y'all. Appreciate you. All my new subscribers, man. Make sure you go back and check out the old videos, man. We got 200 and something. All right. I'm gonna keep on putting out this fire. All right. We're just gonna, get better and better. All right. But as always, I'm you and me, love always, love return. Remember, the worst thing you can do is lie to yourself. And we out. Deuces.